Did you know that the earliest cowgirls used to ride side saddle in skirts? In 2024, a modern cowgirl has the freedom to express herself through fashion and personal style. But this wasn't always the case. Even in 2024, there is a widespread belief in some cultures that ranching is not for women. The rugged conditions on the trail and the rustic atmosphere in the bunkhouse are often thought to be suited only for men. But one thing that cowgirls have consistently shared across the centuries is their strong-willed nature and remarkable sense of fashion expression. In 2024, cowgirl attire has become a fashion genre. But there used to be a time when women barely had the freedom and option to stay comfortable because of society's standards and expectations. To truly grasp the essence of the cowgirl, I think it's a great idea to explore the evolution of country couture through the ages. Before we saddle up, make sure you hit that red subscribe button and turn your notification on to never miss another video from this channel. While you're at it, don't forget to like, comment, and share to help spread the word. Cowgirls have been around as long as horses, but the term became mainstream in the 1830s when Texas gained independence from Mexico. Texas cowboys, previously known as Mexican vaqueros, then developed their own unique culture, influenced by Mexican and American traditions. So, when this culture arrived in the USA, more women with equine ambitions stepped onto the range. By the 1860s, women moving westward with their families adopted practical attire suitable for harsh conditions, including long skirts, bonnets, and sturdy boots. In the art of famous artist Charles Marion Russell, the vaqueros were typically spotted in a red bandana, a fashion statement that became a staple in the 1800s cowgirl wardrobe. Whatever they wore, they'd tie a red bandana to express their love for Western style. But even then, society hadn't completely accepted the concept of a cowgirl, even though young girls had entered their family farms to help. While men wore comfortable chaps and breathable linen during the summer heat, women were still required to cover their legs, wear loose clothing, and refrain from saddling a horse. Their role in the ranch was limited to groomers or walkers. If you belonged to an influential family, you could side saddle a horse only while wearing a respectable long skirt, like a lady. But even back then, your typical ranch girl had a style straight out of a Vogue magazine. With their long leather boots, button-downs with flowy plaid skirts, and fringe gauntlets, an average cowgirl of the 1800s was writing fashion history for future generations. While these women looked luxurious and feminine, their outfits were far from comfortable and weren't made for saddling. That changed in the late 1880s when figures like Lucille Mulhall and Annie Oakley took up space in male-dominated Wild West shows. Their outward fashion was similar to a traditional woman's, but they wore bloomers and split skirts to help them ride horses and perform their stunts with ease and agility. While Annie preferred slim-cut button-downs with pleated skirts, Lucille's style leaned more toward comfort over fashion. She sported loose-fitting tops with breezy skirts and accessorized with bandanas. These two icons inspired cowgirl fashion in the late 1880s. As more women entered rodeo events, practical clothing such as split skirts and bloomers became necessary. When the focus eventually started shifting from traditionally appropriate clothing to comfort, that's when the true fashion revolution for cowgirls started. In the 1920s, rodeo queens took the reins and brought cowgirl couture to the trail with decorative elements like fringes, embroidery, and sequins. It was feminine, chic, and bold. Take Prairie Rose Henderson, for example. This first female to do bronc riding was known for her bold and colorful fashion sense that set her apart from other rodeo performers of her time. Her iconic poofy bloomers became a style statement for cowgirls and rodeo queens in the early 1900s, who'd often style them with sequin tops and blazers. It wasn't all that comfortable, but cowgirls were eventually learning self-expression through fashion. Who said you couldn't ride into dust with a bit of bling? By the 1930s, society had somewhat become accustomed to the idea of a cowgirl, thanks to media representation. But it wasn't a depiction that a true blue cowgirl would have liked. The concept of cowgirl was reduced to fashion and objectification, with traditional attire becoming a costume for movie stars. But it was representation in some form nonetheless. Another benefit of the media representation was that true cowgirls now had more clothing options as brands jumped in to make sales. In the 1940s, brands like Wranglers and Levi's started producing more Western clothing items for women. The first women's jeans, Lady Levi's, were designed by Levi Strauss in 1934, and this was revolutionary for women on the ranch who were still wearing either chaps in summer heat or flimsy bloomers. With brands like Levi's, luxury jeans became more available for pioneer women and those competing in rodeo events. Of course, they were slightly pricey for a regular girl on the ranch, but local brands followed in Levi's footsteps, and jeans became more accessible for women of all classes. In the latter half of the 1900s, cross-dressing had become familiar to the point where nobody looked twice if a cowgirl wore a gingham shirt with jeans. You could say this was the turning point because representation in Hollywood, even though a bit skewed, helped normalize the concept of a woman riding a horse. Remember Urban Cowboy? Deborah Winger's ensemble, including a tied-up button and skinny jeans, may not be the typical image of a classic cowgirl, but it made an impact. Her iconic yellow top with fringes and white hat still captured the essence of classic cowgirl fashion. According to the stats, this movie alone had turned Western clothing into a $5 billion industry. With rodeo and equestrian sports becoming more mainstream for women, cowgirls continued to acquire more space. This was also the time when 98% of PRCA-approved rodeos were offering equal pay for women's events, thanks to the efforts of female rodeo pioneers like Wanda Bush. By the late 1990s, women in rodeo had gained more financial freedom and had formed a distinct identity with their modern clothing. The 2000s were the ideal year to be a cowgirl. From Madonna's gingham style in her iconic Don't Tell Me music video to Britney Spears' embroidered cowboy boots at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, in 2003, country couture was super hot. The 2000s were still riding the 90s cowgirl wave, as this particular type of fashion was still categorized in the vintage or classic category. As brands like Ariat jumped into the mix, country couture gained a modern edge in the late 2000s. After 2010, more brands jumped on the cowgirl fashion bandwagon. It was no longer mass-market fashion, but luxury brands also capitalized on the market. Calvin Klein's Spring 2018 ready-to-wear collection featured Western-cut shirts, classic leather kilts, fuzzy leopard tops, and trousers with cowboy boots. Out of the entire collection, the contrast pocket button-downs became mainstream in the years to come. From TV actresses to your local neighbor cowgirl, everyone was wearing washed-out jeans with a white tank and a leather jacket. Cowgirl fashion went back to becoming more functional and less of a costume for a TV show or a movie poster. In 2024, cowgirl fashion is all about practicality, comfort, and style. Leathers and jeans are timeless staples, with high-waist boot cuts being the current trend. Rather than going full cowgirl, the latest trend is to incorporate statement pieces like a felt cowboy hat, boots, or a bandana into your regular outfit. Take supermodel Bella Hadid, for example. She's currently the poster girl for cowgirl fashion and loves a good leather jacket and a worn-out button-down. Big hats are in, and no one is going to call you out for wearing leather pants with your bright yellow cowboy boots. But if I had to make a fashion prediction for 2024, I would say the minimal cowgirl look may take a backseat going into the fall season. All thanks to Beyoncé's new album, Cowboy Carter. Her influence on fashion has been massive, so it's safe to say that some looks teased in her album may mark the return of loud and feisty rodeo queen fashion. In the teaser, she's seen wearing graphic cowboy boots and a bright red hat with full glam. So, if you have your mother's classic pieces from the 90s somewhere in the closet, you may want to dust them off because the ever-evolving cowgirl fashion may take another turn. What do you think? Is rodeo queen fashion making a comeback? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and if you liked this video, do leave a thumbs up. Once again, you may want to turn your notification on to stay in touch with me and all the hot new updates in cowgirl fashion.